Hey everybody, this is Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts. Welcome to the Marching Roundtable podcast. So happy to be talking about paying for drum corps tonight. And the man behind the Paying for Drum Corps course that we have at Marching Arts Education, Paul Richardson, is here. Paul, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Really enjoying tonight. Thanks for taking the time out to do this.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here. And also with us tonight, Emily Hilman. Emily, how are you?
Good. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
Of course, you are here representing the Battalion. I think the Battalion is a very cool open class DCI corps. They did the DCI Summer of Learning. They've done all kinds of webinars. And I'm a fan of the Battalion. In fact, I'm a fan of open class drum corps. Got to tell everybody. So go to marchingartseducation.com and just put DCI open class and see all this cool stuff that's going to come up. They're doing some great stuff. So tonight we are here to talk about paying for drum corps specifically. Paul, you and I developed a course at marchingartseducation.com. Well, you developed it, and then I sort of helped us film it and put it out into the world. The do's and don'ts of paying for drum corps. Anybody that wants to find this can go to payingfordrumcorps.com. It's a free course. Anybody can take it. Our idea is to really help marchers learn what they need to know. You want to say something about the course, Paul?
Yeah. So we're going to go through a lot of the material in the course. We're going to do kind of a condensed version tailored specifically to Emily's situation. So, but pretty much everything that we talk about here is present in that course, along with a number of other things that may or may not fit your situation. So check it out. I know it's around drum corps contract season, audition season now. So hopefully that's top of mind for everybody, and I think it's well worth the hour you'll invest.
And we created this course in partnership with Drum Corps International. They are behind it 100%. I like what we've done with it, and we are here to try to help marchers learn what they need to know. So if you take this free course, that takes about an hour. There's a section on mindset and perspective around money. There's a whole thing on budgeting and planning. Then the big part is we talk to you about, explain to you how to ask, tools, the best way to ask for or earn your money. And then in the end, in case you need it, there's a section about how to borrow. So Emily Hilman, you are here from the Battalion. You are going to be our test subject tonight, our example drum corps member. And we are going to, because Paul, when we set this up, you said, you know what we should do is we should find a real drum corps person and sort of talk through the concepts that are in the course. So everybody, if you're thinking about trying to figure out how to pay for your dues for drum corps, you're thinking about taking the course, this will be great tonight because Paul's going to talk Emily through her own situation and then use concepts and suggestions and tactics and strategies that are in the course to help her sort of come out of this with her own sort of plan. So Emily, you're getting like star treatment. The man himself, Paul Richardson, is going to help you come up with your own plan. Before we start talking about it, tell us about yourself. Where are you in the world? What do you do at the Battalion? Where are you in school? That kind of thing.
All right, so I am from Salt Lake City, Utah. I was contracted for the Battalion for the 2020 season and unfortunately did not get to march. So I might be a drum corps kid, but I actually haven't marched yet. My contract holds over for the 2021 season. I'm currently a freshman in college and I'm going to Snow College located in Ephraim, Utah. And yeah, that's about it when it comes to me.
Okay, can I ask you what you're studying?
Right now it's not official, but I am taking a lot of music courses, so I'm taking like music theory. So I'm just going to get an associate's degree with an emphasis in music.
Okay, very good. And that's actually, don't worry about it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot because a lot of times when you go up at college your freshman year, you're not sure and you start doing that and figuring it out and taking courses, then you realize maybe where you're going to end up. So very cool. So what is your instrument?
I play the trumpet.
Okay, so Paul, you have a Battalion pro trumpet player on your hands here to help her figure out how to march. We want her to march in 2021. And so I'll let you start the discussion. I do want to say you had her already do some of the budget stuff, right? Like part of the course really explains how to make a budget, how to figure out that so you know exactly where your money is, how much you need to earn, how much you already have. So you've started that process with her, Paul, is that right?
I basically I didn't want to do too much before the podcast, so I just asked Emily if she wouldn't mind, doing a really basic swing at that. So we haven't really talked since, so here we are.
All right, well, jump on in, and where would you like to start?
First, congratulations Like I guess a late congratulations since the contract was last summer or for last summer, and
Thank you.
I think it's really cool that the battalion was able to hold those contracts over for the 2021 season for everybody who could do that. So that's super cool of them. I also want to say I marched. It wasn't called open class. It was Division 2 and 3. So I marched the smaller corps. I guess it was by size back when I marched, and the world class. So special place in my heart for open class as well. And just we're going to reiterate what Tim said. If you haven't checked out the open class scene, it's really cool, guys. All right. So I guess first question I have, when you think about the dues and the financial obligation, being a college student, like where's your head at? Like what's your level of stress and anxiety when we talk about money? Are you like a 1 or are you like full freak out 10?
Wouldn't say full freak out 10, but it's definitely up there, probably like a 7 or 8.
Okay, fair. I think most people in your situation are about at a 7 or 8, so you're right there. Well, cool. Well, hopefully we're going to talk through your situation, and the goal here really is to just come up with a plan, right? There's a lot of different places where we can pull a lever here, pull a lever there, and hopefully come up with a fantastic strategy for you. So I'd say feel free to write something down. And honestly, the cool thing is we're recording this. You can just go back and listen to the podcast. So, but
I'm lucky.
but that's the idea. I'm just going to ask you a whole ton of questions, and we're going to come up with a plan, and there we are. And then afterward, I definitely want to follow up with you off podcast and just see how it's going.
Cool.
So I guess first question, you started kind of a basic budget. So if you're comfortable sharing those numbers, what'd you come up with?
So I currently do not have a job. I am a full-time student, so I don't really have much of an income, but my expenses, I have to pay rent every month, which is about $300, and then groceries for myself is around $100 a month, and then gas is about $70 a month.
So I got about 470 in expenses, if I did my math correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you said there's no job. Where is that money coming from at the moment? Is that parental support? Is that scholarship? What's that from?
Yeah, so a mix of both parental support and scholarships. I have very good scholarships for where I'm going, and my parents and I made an agreement that since I put in the work to get the scholarships, that they would help me out with anything else I needed.
Oh, that's awesome. Go mom and dad.
Yeah, I got a good mom and dad.
That's huge, though. That's really huge. Well, cool. So we're going to call that kind of a wash, right? And then did you have any savings? Were able to work last summer and maybe put some away since unfortunately there wasn't a season?
Yeah, so last year when I found out that I was contracted, I was actually working 2 jobs in order to save up for drum corps. I had my regular job and then I just got a seasonal job. And so I was able to make quite a lot of money doing that, and I still haven't spent that money. That's kind of my put away and save it for drum corps money.
Good for you. Congrats on the discipline on that. It's a big deal.
It's been hard, but I've been doing it.
Absolutely. So how much money do you have saved? And then the next question I'm going to ask is, what is your dues obligation to the battalion?
I have about 2,500 saved, and that's about what the battalion costs for a season. It might be a little less than that.
Oh, fantastic. You're killing it right now. And then you are near the Salt Lake area, so I assume there's not a lot of travel expenses going on there. There's not a lot of additional. I don't know the battalion's dues structure. I don't know if that's kind of a one number and you're done, or if there's camp fees, things like that as well.
There were some camp fees. It's a little different this year since our camps have been online. So I think it was $20 for each of our online clinics, but last year it was like $50, except if you went to the school that the camp was hosted at, then it was free. So I was a senior in high school last year, and we were lucky enough. My band director is the brass caption head for the battalion. Shout out to John Matthews. But so I got to go for free for a couple of those camps, but right now it's just kind of a weird situation. I don't really know what to expect.
Fantastic. Well, let's start by saying you're in great shape already. And how old are you again?
I'm 18 years old.
You're 18, so you've got 4 years. Depends on when your birthday is, right?
Yeah, I got a cheater birthday. It's July, so 4 years, I think.
So you've got 4 seasons. Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna go through those steps. The awesome thing is there's the level of urgency right now is maybe not as high, which is great. But the other part is I want to make sure that you're set up for 4 years of drum corps should you choose to do that, right? So yeah, so because I kind of did the same thing when I marched. I took a summer, didn't march, and had enough for the first year, and then I had a couple more years to pay for, and that's when it got pretty real here. So so the cool thing is with that money that you have saved, any money that you're able to raise, find, earn now, you can essentially keep that savings in and roll that into next year, right? So we're going to do as much as we can to get you going for this year and years to come.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. All right. So you kind of answered a little bit of my first question. So the first couple of places where people are usually able to find support, right? One is family support, and the next is school. So I want to walk through those kind of part one and part two, right? So family support, it sounds like you've got mom and dad are on board. It's awesome. And it sounds like you guys have a really good arrangement now.
Yeah.
So from outside of mom and dad, do you have the option? So we're recording this in kind of late November. We're coming up through holiday season. I don't know much personally. I'm just assuming there's a gift giving holiday in there somewhere because that's true for 98% of the country.
Yeah.
So do you have the option, or are you already planning to essentially ask for donations towards your dues? Is that something that you're willing to do, or something that you've even thought of?
I mean, I've thought about it, but I also don't like asking for money. But I do have very supportive grandparents that I could also probably ask, and they would probably make a contribution to that.
Why? Let's dig in on that for just a second. You said you don't like asking for money. I'm kind of curious what's behind that. Why is that uncomfortable for you?
It's probably just a sense of pride where it's like I don't want other people to pay for my experiences, even though it's like I do, because I don't want to pay for it myself, but also it's like, let me work hard to get the money so I can do this thing that I want.
That's awesome. And like I love the work ethic and the independence. It's kind of a hallmark of the drum corps mentality, right? It's not a coincidence that you've gravitated towards this activity with those personality traits.
Definitely.
The other side of that, the double-edged sword to that is drum corps people tend to not want to ask for help. And that is, so let me kind of go through it like this, right? Do you enjoy helping other people?
Oh, of course.
Absolutely. And I've stood in front of all kinds of groups, large and small, and asked that question, put your hand up if you enjoy helping other people. Every single hand goes up.
Right.
And then I say, put your hand up if you are comfortable asking for help. And there's about 3 hands, right?
Right.
That's exactly what happens. So, but this is a very real thing, right? And that is people get a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride, a sense of joy for helping somebody else, especially somebody that they care about. So by not asking for help when you're in a position to have that help be very impactful on your life, something like drum corps, which I believe is a life-changing event. I know you haven't marched this summer yet. I hope this summer is as important to your life as my summers of drum corps was to mine.
Right.
But the ability to help somebody experience that is really important, and most people will actually jump at the chance to help that. Now there's financial circumstances, personal relationships, all of those things, but I would just encourage you to just take a pause and maybe try it out once or twice. Ask somebody that you think would be open to that, and like watch their face, watch their reaction. And particularly if you have a chance to tell them the story about what drum corps means to you, or they already know what role music has played in your life so far, watch their face, right? And you might be surprised if you kind of step past your own emotions for a second. So I just kind of wanted to encourage you to just give it a shot. And I think asking for money is not as it's certainly scary is not the right word, right? But asking for money is a lot easier, and it feels a lot better than you think it does if you haven't done it much. So.
Okay, cool. And would you recommend like asking in person or sending an email, text, Facebook post? Like what would you recommend to do for that?
So normally I would say in person is always best, right? We're in a time when in-person gathering is maybe not the smartest idea at the moment.
Sure, yeah.
So as in person as you can, right? And so this is where you're going to trust your instincts about the relationships you have with the people you're asking. So for family, however you normally talk to grandma, grandpa, Aunt Sally, whoever you're asking, however you normally engage with them, normally we're close to a Thanksgiving holiday. And if there's an in-person gathering, like that's a great chance to have that side conversation and as you're reconnecting with everyone, right? So yeah, I would say the more personal, the better, particularly, but you want to follow the relationship, right? So as you kind of go out from the center, the people that you're really close to, you might not have those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But the more, essentially, the more of an opportunity you have to tell your story about what this means to you, the better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Great question, by the way.
Thanks.
Okay, so if we're kind of mixing ingredients into the Emily's Drum Corps dues souffle here, right? I would certainly take a look at if it's something you're comfortable, if the thing that you want most in your life right now is the ability to do drum corps, hopefully for years to come, then just be honest with everybody around you and tell them that. Because I will also say, as somebody a little bit older buying gifts for younger people in my life, it's really hard sometimes to know what to get somebody. And so I actually very much appreciate it when somebody tells me exactly what they want on like for a birthday, for Christmas, for whatever holiday. So
all right, okay.
So I would put that number one. Take a look at that, and then I think from a family situation, that's probably all you need to explore at the moment.
Okay.
Down the line, I will also say if we get to the point where we're borrowing, which you're not doing this year, like no. No, but in years in the future, if things get a little bit tighter, and you're looking to borrow, that might also be a conversation. That's a little harder conversation about taking a loan from somebody in your family.
Definitely.
I'll kind of we'll just move right past that. That's in the course for anybody who's listening and wants some more details on that. Here's my next question. So college, you mentioned that you've got a great scholarship situation. By the way, congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
That is huge. So when you say a great scholarship situation, are we talking full ride? Give me some details if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I go to Snow College, and it's actually one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest schools in Utah, but they have a really good music program. Love that there. So I have a half scholarship based off of academics alone, and then another half scholarship for music. So in total, I ended up paying $31 for tuition this year.
You get a slow clap for that. That's actually amazing.
I'm very proud of that.
You should be. You should be. That's fantastic. Like, all drum corps aside, I mean, you're going to get out with at least a couple years of college education without any student debt. That's incredible.
That was a lot of the appeal. That's a lot of the reason why I picked that college in the first place, but I love it there.
That's awesome. Snow College sounds cool. I actually have to look that up now. Anyway, okay, so just those two scholarships, and that's kind of taking care of pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had to buy like textbooks and stuff, but that wasn't a huge deal in the grand scheme of things.
Have you looked at other scholarships on top of that?
I have not.
So, and the reason I asked that question, a lot of people will, that come into a situation like you've got, which is fantastic, say, hey, tuition's good, I'm good, cool. But there are other scholarships out there, and this is where the devil's in the details, and I'm just going to talk in some generalities because each scholarship's different, each school is different.
For sure.
But I would recommend, if you haven't, I assume Snow College has a financial aid office or, a counselor, something like that.
Yeah, they do.
I would actually recommend having that conversation and finding out what the rules are, because there are a lot of scholarships that are independent of other scholarships, meaning there are some scholarships where if they fight, like if they're going to ask the school says you basically got a full ride, the scholarship's like, you don't need it, bye, we're going to, look at somebody else. There are a lot of scholarships where that is not the case, and they don't care, they don't check. If you qualify, you get the money. Okay. And many of them don't have that earmarked either. So in other words, you could potentially find, there could be other scholarships out there that you could apply for, and they're not necessarily huge, but $1,000 a year scholarship would be amazing.
Oh yeah.
Particularly because then all of a sudden you've got either just put that direct to dues or put that towards books and see if mom and dad can't kick in for some, like just adding $1,000 to that pot with no obligations just by going through those motions. I highly recommend you get that conversation as soon as you can.
Okay.
And also while you're developing that relationship. So I also recommend to everybody in college, particularly trying to pay for drum corps, that you don't meet with the financial aid office once, either once a semester or at the very least once a year, and literally just kind of go over your situation. So, when you're out in the world and you've got a decade or two of a career and you've got, income and mortgage and all these other things, I recommend talking to a financial advisor. When you're in college, I highly recommend for the same thing, literally just do a financial situation checkup with the financial aid office. That's what they're there for. They literally get paid to help you with that. So check for scholarships. I would also ask about student loans, which you do not need right now. In the future, so I'm thinking, year 2, 3, 4, if you are in a situation to borrow, the number one kind of best borrowing base right now as we're recording this in 2020 is student loans, and it's been that way for a while. So you're going to get the best rates, everything else. It's basically when you get a loan, everybody wants that secured by some collateral so they can come and repossess your house or your car or whatever you're borrowing against. Student loans are cool because you get to borrow against your future income and your brain. Turns out legally they can't actually take your brain from you. So, and because of some of the federal programs out there, the interest rates are really low in comparison to what you get elsewhere too. So, I'd say that would be step 2. Step 1, ask for dues for Christmas. Step 2, go visit that financial aid office or counselor. And I would recommend, if you can, do that before the end of this year, because a lot of those like financial aid packages, they're usually, it's a few months often to get those in scholarships. So you might be kind of doing homework for next year, which is still really useful because you're going to march multiple years of drum corps.
Definitely.
Cool. All right, and just kind of going down the list here, sounds like you're in a great situation to focus on your studies and not pick up a job. If you absolutely had to, what would you do?
So I know that something that I'm interested in doing at Snow, they have a smaller pep band for the basketball games, and you actually get paid to do that. It's like 5 games. I don't know how much it is per game, but I'm definitely going to be auditioning for that. And then if I make it, any money I earn there is going to go towards my drum corps fund. I could also probably get a job at, like, I don't know, the McDonald's down in Ephraim. Ephraim's a small town. There's not much out there, but there are definitely opportunities, whether it be working for the school or at one of the surrounding locations.
Have you, and I don't know where you're at from an education standpoint, have you thought about or given any private lessons?
I have not. My dad teaches private lessons, and he keeps telling me that I need to start teaching private lessons because I can make a lot of money. But right now it's not super ideal because I live in such a small town where the only trumpet players are my peers, and it's kind of hard commuting back up to where I'm from in West Jordan. But it's something I would consider if I do end up moving back here or going to a different school.
So the reason I asked, you kind of mentioned that your high school band director is, you say brass staff, brass caption?
Brass caption head, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's pretty cool because that likely, not knowing this person at all, likely this is somebody who's coming in contact with a lot of students, right? Either in high school, incoming middle school students, maybe people auditioning. So certainly as your career develops and your resume builds, right? You get a couple of years of DCI under your belt, and that's going to attract students all by itself, on top of the recommendations. But I think if you kind of decide that's something you want to do, and I'll also say virtual lessons have obviously most everybody has gone to virtual lessons in 2020 as opposed to in person.
That's a good point.
And there's a lot of, virtual lessons have been around for a long time, but since everybody's doing them now, there's a lot of kind of best practices out there and methods, and you could probably find some people who are doing that at a really high level and just ask a couple of questions and find out how to get that started. If that's something you want to start, just work your network, let people know. I would, again, start with brass caption head, former band director, who knows you as a person, knows your skill set, and assuming that they would recommend you, they could also potentially feed you a couple of students. The cool thing about private lessons is this: you don't have to pick up like 20 students. You could pick up 1 or 2 or 3 students at a time, and it's just kind of a steady stream of a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there, but it can add up really, really quickly.
Right, okay, cool. I'll check that out.
Also, that sounds like Dad's got a good plan for you too. So, is Dad a musician? I assume?
Yeah, Dad is also a trumpet player. He's the reason I play trumpet. He might be more excited than I am for me marching drum corps, and it's pretty tough to beat how excited I am.
That's amazing. Did he march drum corps as well?
He did not, so maybe he's just vicariously living through me, but I'm fine with it.
As a parent, we do that sometimes, so, bring him along for the ride.
Right.
Okay. So Emily, I'm loving this. It sounds like you're actually in really good shape. Just a couple of quick questions and maybe some things to look at for later as well. It's Tim's favorite topic. Have you thought about, or do you plan to use a GoFundMe account?
I've thought about it. I don't know if I'm planning on it or not. It's back to the whole I don't like asking for money thing. So if I know I'm set for this upcoming season, but I don't know what the future looks like. So it could definitely be in the future, but I kind of don't know yet.
Well, so a couple of things. One, I would challenge, so we keep kind of saying that you're in good shape for this season. I actually kind of want to walk that back a little bit. Just because you have savings right now doesn't mean that, I have this much savings, I have this much dues, they're a match, cool, I'm good. Because again, that's very short-term thinking. So, right.
Because after the season, I'm back to square one with basically nothing.
Well, and that's just it. Like, it is not dishonest to say that you have a financial need for drum corps. You actually do have a financial need for drum corps, right? It is not a dishonest thing to say. So as you're telling the story, like, it's not deceptive in any way to leave out the fact that you have savings, right?
Right.
Like, because that savings, it's your decision whether you earmark that for drum corps or not, right? And I will also say that a best practice for anybody who's becoming financially independent is to have an emergency fund, right? So if you basically just wipe your savings out for drum corps, you have no emergency fund, you have no bandwidth, right? Car troubles happen and you have to rely on somebody else for that. So as you're doing that, the asking for money, I would I wouldn't race to say, I've got a whole bunch of savings here, right? Because that's I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of like making it's kind of like making your decision for next year too, right? So yeah, let's spread all of that out and plan on 3 or 4 years of drum corps.
Cool.
If you do a GoFundMe account, and you will, if you have a lot of friends on social media who are marching, you're going to start seeing that. Usually it's like January through April is GoFundMe season.
Yeah.
That's when everybody puts them out. So if you're going to do that, don't do that. Don't make a GoFundMe and put that out for the people in your circle that you know. If you're going to use a GoFundMe, make sure you're trying to get that link into other people's circles, right? So this is the reason I bring this up now. If you wanted to make a GoFundMe page, and there's a lot of different ways we can talk about how to make those look really good. That's something where, as you're talking to family, and maybe you have family that financially isn't able to support you themselves, or maybe they are and they're really excited about it, and maybe grandma and grandpa have some social circles that they're in, and would be willing to share that, right? So that's where a GoFundMe could be powerful. Spreading that around to all of your friends who are in band and all your friends who are in college is not really going to do anything for you, right? Like,
Right.
college kids don't have money. Everybody in bands trying to march. Like that's
Yeah.
doesn't do anything.
It doesn't work out.
No, it doesn't at all. The idea from that is the power of a GoFundMe would be to give an easy link for somebody to donate to your cause, which is your Summer of Drum Corps, and get that in the hands of people who aren't in those circles, right? And maybe have that money. And in the same way, there are people that will always buy from a kid selling candy bars door to door, right? They will always buy Girl Scout cookies. And you could pick up $20 here, $25 there if you can get that link into those circles. So as you're talking to relatives or friends who know you but aren't necessarily in that world, that's something you could ask them to do. You could just say, hey, would you also mind spreading this out? If I send you a link, would you mind just sharing that out on your social media? And that's where a GoFundMe can actually bring money from kind of outside the closed bubble of drum corps into the drum corps bubble, right? So
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Whew. What other questions do you have?
How would you recommend, like, say I have a job and a steady income, how would you recommend, like, dividing up money? Because, like, when I had a job, it would be like, oh, I'd try to put like around half of my paycheck into savings and the other half I could spend on food and stuff because, like, I'm a teenager. I still want to go hang out with my friends. I'm not just going to put all of my money into a savings account. So what tips and advice would you have for that on balancing fun spending money versus saving money?
God bless you for that question. A lot of people my age still haven't asked themselves that question. So I would honestly just recommend a budgeting software, to be honest. And there's two I talk about in the course. I'll just tell you what they are right now. One is Mint. Excuse me. It's free, and essentially you can hook it up to most of your like larger banks. Some of the smaller banks or credit unions you can't hook up, but a lot of times you can literally just hook that up, hit a button, it syncs up, and then once a month, every 2 weeks, whatever rhythm you want to get in. Be disciplined about it, put it on the calendar, set aside the time. And essentially that's where you want to go through and just look and take an honest look I like monthly is usually pretty good for most people. So once a month, as long as you're looking at that and you're just being really honest with yourself, here's what I spent last month, here's my income last month, here's what I'm tracking, right? And if you wanted to put goals and budgets around there, Mint can do that. There's another software that I think is a little better at that called, it's YNAB. It's a really unfortunate name. It's You Need a Budget, right? And it's a little bit more robust. It's a little more geared towards your question, which was how do you kind of pre-earmark that money, right?
Yeah.
YNAB's pretty good at that. They are, I can't remember what the deal is. They're free for college students for a year or something like that. It is a paid product past that. So, either one of those. Mint is free, YNAB's free for college students for a long time. So I would highly recommend pick one of those and honestly just start looking at it. I would say even do that now, even though even with your your expenses being relatively low and the income too, there's not going to be a lot of stuff there, but if you can get in that habit every month of doing that, that'll take you honestly through the rest of your life, and you will make really, really good financial decisions if you don't go more than a month without looking yourself in the mirror and being like, I'm spending too much here, I'm not spending enough here, I just spent all this money and I really didn't get anything for it. So that would be my recommendation, is to start with the software.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question I do want to cover real quick, and that is when we're looking at asking for money, which I know is something that's not your favorite, but it will be, because you're going to try it and you're going to see how people respond, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how much people enjoy giving you money.
Okay.
Sounds weird to say. But as you go outside of your circle, I know you're in kind of a smaller town now, it sounds like.
Yeah.
and I don't know much about where you came from, but in smaller towns, or if your family's been in the same spot for a while, there's sometimes business connections that are out there. And so I will also say you might want to check out, and this is something like, this is kind of the longest section in the course. So this is something I might just refer you, go check that course out for a minute.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people that have been very successful asking small businesses for donations. And we kind of walk through the framework of that. I don't want to spend a whole ton of time on that now, but it looks something like the first step would be identifying businesses who would kind of care about you, right? In the same way that identifying family members that care about you, could lead to success in them wanting to donate. I would say the same thing for businesses as well, right? And as you're talking to family, if somebody's willing to donate, one of the most common programs for people who are currently employed is as an employer match. So in other words, if I were to donate $50 to a charity of my choice, I could submit some forms, give that to my company, and the company donates another $50 to the same charity.
Oh, okay.
So, and I kind of bring that up too, because as you're talking to family, there may be an opportunity for that, right? And now, not all donations are tax deductible. So this is again where you've got to kind of talk through the situation a little bit. Everything's a little different. Every state's a little different. But that might be another opportunity there. And as you're kind of making a list and talking to your folks, as you're kind of reviewing this and thinking where might there be some really easy money to get, I guess, I would maybe look at your network, your family's network. Ask your parents if they have a program where they work, if they know of somebody who has that program where they work, and then also as you're asking those relatives, feel free to ask, hey, do you know a business that might support this as well? And then, as you start to build a list there, go check the course out. There's actually a sample sponsorship letter that it's in Word. You can take it, customize it, personalize it, and send that to those businesses and just see what happens.
Sweet, thank you.
Welcome. Okay.
This is really interesting, guys. So Emily, you're in an amazing situation because you're not stressed out about coming up with money immediately for this first season. But I sort of agree with Paul. I think if you think about, I might march 4 years of drum corps, then all of a sudden you need 4 times the amount you actually have.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I think the course is so helpful. And Paul, you did a great job of sort of explaining it. Everybody, if you take the course, you will see and you will hear all these things described very clearly. Like I said, it takes about an hour of your time, and then you'll have a strategy. But the idea is, I love this. Like, if you can do some lessons and start banking that for future drum corps, and then if you can, get some donations from relatives and things, because that really does make them feel good. Then when you're out there marching next summer, they know they helped make that happen. I think that's really powerful. So I think if you think about, all right, instead of needing $2,500, maybe I need $10,000 for 4 years of drum corps. Well, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I gotta make this work. Not to stress you out. I'm not trying to stress you out, because you're in a great situation. And I also think, boy, I probably shouldn't say this. Paul, maybe I shouldn't say this, but like, if my parents had no tuition to pay, I might be able to convince them to supplement the education I'm going to get in the summer from drum corps. And we talk about this in the course, and everybody, you can go hear that part if you take it. But you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be educational for you. That's going to be a life experience. You are talking about doing something in the world of music. So I don't think it's that big of a sell to say to them, you know what, this is going to really help me in my music career and in my future career as a music educator, whatever that looks like. Can you help me, since you're not having to pay tuition right now? I know they're helping you with lots of other expenses, and they sound like they're awesome. But Paul, Paul, am I wrong to sort of throw that out there?
Well, so when you're on summer tour, the drum corps is handling your food, they're handling your transportation, so you don't need a car or insurance. I don't know who pays for that now. Whoever does, you can literally call your insurance company if the car is going to sit, and maybe cancel insurance for 3 months. I don't, again, check some states it's actually illegal to do. I think Utah's okay though. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the plan was for this year before the season got canceled.
Right.
I was like, we'll take you off insurance. It'll be great.
But also there's there's food there. There's room and board. I assume you were going to move back home with mom and dad. So there's while you're away, that might create a little bit of bandwidth here or there. The other part that Tim was kind of alluding to. So as somebody who aged out years ago, I will say I believe that your investment in drum corps is going to add tens of thousands of dollars to your earning potential down the line. I just truly believe that the skills you're going to learn are going to make you a more valuable employee in whatever field you're in, whether that's music or not. I work in the not, and I will say that a lot of the success that I've had in my career I can tie directly back to things I learned on tour. So I do believe personally that your summer or summers of drum corps are as valuable to your earning potential as getting a degree. So I would also think about it like that, right? Like you've done a phenomenal job getting yourself into a college situation without debt. That's amazing. If you can also get through a handful of years of drum corps without debt, that's a trophy all in itself, for real. It's huge.
Awesome.
Well, and the nice thing about what just happened is, Emily, you can simply show them this video of me saying it, and you don't even have to ask, because I'm putting the idea out there for you. And anybody actually that's watching this or listening to this can do that too. But anyway, I think you're in a great situation. Paul, I think you've sort of laid out the basics of asking and saving and that kind of thing. So Paul, is there anything else that you wanted to go over with Emily or ask her before we wrap this conversation up?
No, I think we've covered I think we've covered more than enough actually for Emily's situation. Emily, I think if you work those handful of things there, I think without a ton of effort, I actually think you're going to shake a few $1,000s out. I think it's going to be more successful than you might realize, just based on what I'm hearing from your situation and how I've seen this play out with other people who have a lot of the similar situations that you have.
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling pretty good about future years.
Yeah, and who says you might end up after 4 years of drum corps with that savings still sitting there in the bank? Because like Paul said, why spend it? If people will give you the money, you can do some lessons. There's all these other ways to get people to support this great thing you're going to do.
Definitely.
And there's no reason why. I mean, if I was you, I would try to go through this whole season without touching that savings. It's totally possible, everybody. Emily, what is your thought about this whole conversation? Like, what did it go the way you thought it would? Were the suggestions what you expected? What do you think about this?
I mean, they're what I expected. I was expecting, just ask your relatives for money. But I feel like it was a much more in-depth, and I definitely feel a lot more comfortable with it now, since both of you have been saying that drum corps is such an educational experience that it'll really add a lot to your life, and people really want to see you succeed. So I definitely feel a lot more comfortable about that. So I'm very happy with how this conversation went. Got everything I could ask for.
Well, thank you for taking time to do it and sort of putting yourself out there on a limb, not knowing exactly what to expect by us dissecting your situation, but really you're in a fantastic situation. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the battalion to have a member. They're listening to this going, she's already got her dues, that's going to make them really happy. I'm just joking. But I want you to use all these strategies. Emily, you're going to go take that hour-long Paying for Drum Corps course. You're going to get reinforced, take some notes, and I guarantee you can probably head into your summer without touching your savings.
All right, that's the new goal. We're going to do it.
I'm seriously, I think it's totally possible. And it's possible for anybody. Paul, you've done such a great job of setting up the course. Again, everybody, it's at marchingartseducation.com, or just go to payingfordrumcorps.com. The course is there. It's free. Takes about an hour. Really, really helpful information. And don't skip around, everybody. Just watch the whole thing through. I mean, you've got an hour. Think about it. You take an hour, and at the end of it, you're going to have a strategy. You're going to be less stressed, just like Emily after this delightful conversation with Paul. She's like calmer, right? Don't you feel calmer, Emily?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because you have an idea of sort of what it looks like, what your plan's going to be. Budgeting is calming, everybody. So figure out your plan, use the course. Paul, you're awesome. Thanks for having this conversation.
Thanks so much, Emily. You have to keep in touch. I love the goal, and keep us in the loop on how you're doing, and feel free to hit me up with any questions.
All right. Thank you so much.
Emily, thank you for your time tonight and for doing this conversation with us.
Of course.
I'd like to share 3 important reasons why you need to take advantage of marchingartseducation.com and the resources that Tim Hinton has put together for anyone involved in the marching pageantry arts world. Number 1, we've heard the expression that experience is the best teacher. And the truth of the matter is, that's the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Experience isn't the best teacher. Other people's experience. Now that's the best teacher, because you can learn from all the mistakes they made and how they figured out how to make it work and not make those mistakes yourself. The second reason is, if you're a fan of Stephen Covey, you know the phrase sharpening the saw, and how we all need to take time to keep learning. And in our world especially, the people who are most successful are the ones who are constantly learning and growing and developing their craft of teaching and designing and making this thing work for them in their situation with their students in their school or community or environment. And number 3, it's the most cost-effective way to gain an advantage like that, because you could take a marching band methods course somewhere in America at the college level, undergraduate or graduate. But for an undergraduate credit hour, you're going to spend $530. And for a graduate level course, in the United States right now, it's $631 per credit hour. When you can make a small investment each month and have access to an entire catalog of materials and instruction and ideas that will serve you well, way beyond the cost of admission. Marchingartseducation.com might be your secret weapon for a more successful future in the pageantry world.